it comes to a brand new video game that has a difficulty curve to it, you have gaming journalists who will flock to the internet and write articles, tweet it out on Twitter, that this game needs to have an easy mode to be more accessible to its players, and that the developer needs to think about those people who aren't great at video games in order to appeal to a wider audience. This is a sentiment that I do not agree with. There is a video game out there for everybody, and that's the beauty of the video game industry. Not every video game is going to be crafted for every single person. Fighting games have never been my forte, nor will they ever be. There's just something about putting in these long, extravagant combos to be able to pull off a move that a character could do that I just can't wrap my head around. I've sat down for hours upon hours and gone through the menu to learn a character's moves, and I just struggle with it. Even having a friend help me and having him be there so I could practice the moves on him, I've never been able to wrap my head around it. Sure, it sucks, I can't play with my friends, but if I'm cheating my way through it anyways and just pressing a one-button combo that allows me to do that, that's kind of a slap in the face to my friends who are actually good at the game, and I'm just able to beat them by pulling it off. So it doesn't make much sense. Video games are meant to be difficult, and some games are just that way. It doesn't mean that the game still can't be enjoyed by people. It's just not something you're going to like because of its difficulty, much like with me in fighting games. I can enjoy a fighting game story, but I'm going to get pretty burnt out on this gameplay because it's going to be very repetitive for me because I suck at it. Plain and simple. Where I do feel like I succeed, though, is platformers. I love my platformers brutal and difficult. I love being able to learn the levels in a platformer, whether it's 2D or 3D, know when to jump, how to jump, where to jump, and how to achieve my goal. You're watching Cuphead and you're seeing my struggles, my triumphs, and ultimately when I beat the boss. I want this to kind of also replicate the build-up that it takes to quote-unquote get good at these games, and there's nothing wrong with that mentality. I think when it's thrown around and flung around pretty toxic, it can be pretty damaging to people, but there's nothing wrong with the mentality of having a game be a get good game. From Software games are very much this way. I would argue From Software is very much in touch with their fan base and know what they want, which is why they don't add an easy mode. The get good mentality applies very well to the From Software games because From Software constructs their games to teach the player to learn from their mistakes, where they went wrong, what not to repeat. Ultimately go back, trial and error, time after time, beat down after beat down, and be able to finally look that boss in the face, say, "Ha ha, I killed you, you son of a bitch. Oh my gosh, where's the whiskey?" These games are meant to crush you, destroy you, and then make you feel good once you achieve it. There's something pleasuring about being able to take down a boss after the 15th time, after the 100th time of crashing and burning. There's a sensation that these games feel. Now, Dark Souls may be a series I don't have a lot of experience in, and it's not because of the difficulty that turns me off. It is the lack of a story in your face sometimes. I tend to be more of a story-driven gamer, but Dark Souls are games I really want to get into. There just needs to not be so many games coming out all at once to allow me to be able to sit down and play these, I think, and I could get into them. But again, goes back to how there's different games out there for different people, and nothing wrong with that. But all in all, to deem that games need to add an easy mode is just, I think it's a stupid saying to say. Take a game like Cuphead, for instance. One of the big controversies floating around Cuphead was that it needed to add a skip boss button. Why not just at that point go watch a Let's Play if you're going to skip over the game's bosses anyways because they're too difficult, and you're not going to learn the patterns and the different moves that the enemies have to throw at you in order to get past them. Why not just watch a Let's Play. Sure, you could argue that, well, maybe I want to try to get to that next boss and beat them, but chances are that boss is going to teach you a specific pattern or certain abilities you're going to need to use in a different fight anyways, so if you don't master that boss, you're probably going to struggle with another boss, because trust me, there are bosses in Cuphead that are a hell of a lot harder than the one we're fighting here. So, all in all, in closing, no, I don't think video games need to add an easy mode to attract other players. On a closing note, because gaming journalists keep throwing people with disabilities into this, I think it's great video games are being able to adapt to people with disabilities. I think it's great that we have voice commands and controls specifically designed for people with disabilities to play games. I want those people to be able to experience games. I want those people to be able to get the chance to play said video games, and I think it's great. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with having a game that is brooding and difficult. It's a slap in the face to those disabled people, I think, who can overcome these challenges and who do, through struggle and trial and error. Young made a perfect video talking about this whole thing, and the one comment that he brought up that I couldn't agree with more about this whole topic was the analogy of climbing Mount Everest. People climb Mount Everest for the gratification of being able to say, I climbed Mount Everest. I did something that most people have not been able to achieve. Sure, you could build a lift that goes up to the top of Mount Everest and it wouldn't ruin the experience for anybody else. By doing so, you could still climb Mount Everest if you wanted to, but not many people would be able to say, I climbed to the top of Mount Everest, and that's kind of the point with what is going on. Climbing Mount Everest is obviously a hell of a lot more difficult, than beating Dark Souls or Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, but the same concept applies, and there's nothing wrong with that. If there are developers who stumble across this video, no guys, it is okay to have a hard game, and despite the backlash and the hate bombs that are sent your way from gaming journalists writing articles, know that there are people out there who do enjoy difficult games and enjoy what you are doing. So if that is your vision and that is truly what you are going for, it is completely okay to have a hard game and not add difficulty options. You guys have been watching Gaming with Spoons. Let me know down below what you guys think of this. I want to hear your thoughts, your opinions on this whole debacle going on and what you think about games needing to add an easy mode. Be sure to hit subscribe there for me if you haven't already. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter, links down below in that description box, and most importantly, stay happy, be happy, game happy. Spoons is checking out.